So earlier today, I was on the bus, and right next to me, there was a group of teenagers chatting loudly. And from what I could understand of their conversation, they were heading towards a big party with all their friends. And what I understood was that it seemed to be some kind of indoors event. So that obviously concerned me a bit because it was to me evidence that the social distancing norms are now being abandoned, uh, because as we all should know, uh, congregating in enclosed spaces with a lot of people uh, are the perfect scenario for what you would call a super spreader event, where one infected individual could transmit the disease to tens of susceptible others. And as a doctor working in the emergency medicine clinic, I have skin in the game, so I know what I'm talking about when I'm saying that what we're seeing clinically and what the evidence is telling us is that it's not only the very old and frail people that are dying from COVID 19. It's often people with many years of life left to live that are passing away. And, colleagues of mine have that I actually know have ended up on ventilators, and a few, even though I don't know them personally, uh, have unfortunately died. So this is not a benign, trivial respiratory infection. It's something much more severe. So um, people don't really seem to care about that anymore. And I don't really blame them, because what has been depicted in the media and on the press conferences by the Swedish Public Health Ministry, or the Swedish Center for Disease Control, whatever you would call it in English, is that the situation is pretty much handled by now, and that the curve is flattening, and that there's still really no cause for concern, uh, which is obviously not true, because the Swedish strategy has been predicated upon the premise of herd immunity, which is something that we're not even close towards, uh, according to the serological evidence that we currently have. And no country have been proven to be any close towards herd immunity. Even the highly infected ones, such as Spain and Italy and the UK. So what we're now seeing is a public that have been left to its own uh, destiny, basically. The emphasis has been placed on individuals to make sound decisions, which is totally contradictory, because at the same time you have deemed the public too incompetent to even wear a face mask correctly. But when it comes to these complex issues, as in how much social distancing that is needed at this time, it has been left for the individual to decide. And at the same time, they have had a vested interest in depicting the scenario as a success story, which it obviously is not. So people are listening to the image that is being portrayed in the media, where we're winning and we're doing the right thing, and they are confused. They think that if we're doing the right thing, if the plan is working, then life should pretty much go back to normal. Which is why they are now going to get together in enclosed spaces And if that happens in society at large, we are surely to see yet another big spike and another uh, overrun by our medical capacity. The hospitals are going to be overrun, which is obviously very concerning. So, what I would like to address is that it's now time to look a little bit further into why the authorities are putting so much emphasis on the responsibility of the individual. Uh, and to me, it seems like a way for us to not hold them accountable. Because if everything is about the common sense of the individual on complex matters like this, the reason for failure will never be theirs. It's going to be ours, and we are going to be, or some of us are going to be too consumed by our own guilt, the fact that we were sort of told to keep on with the restrictions, to keep on with somewhat of social distance, but not too much. Uh, and at the same time that the strategy was successful, we were being told both of these things, and it caused us to see what we want to hear, what we wanted to hear, which is that we could go back to life as normal. And of course, people are going to come to that conclusion because it's what they want to, the conclusion that they want to arrive to. The problem is that the officials and the politics and the politicians will be able to hide behind the fact that it was the society at large that failed and not that they are not to be held accountable. And they should be held accountable for this, because Sweden's exceptional strategy to place all the money on the card of herd immunity is basically the strategy that has been abandoned by almost every developed country and by the WHO. And we need to have a more thorough debate on that matter. And right now, it has almost been an act of patriotism to support the Swedish strategy, to support the Swedish authorities, and to support the quite frankly quite small minority of scientists that are concurring with the Swedish strategy. Uh, and Sweden is a consensus-based society. We have little room for diversity of opinion, and it's a small society that easily catches on uh, group thinking, and where critics are labeled as essentially morally bad. And certainly that's not a favorable position to be in as a society when dealing with such a serious matter as this one, because it makes us prone to continue further than necessary on a path that is just doomed to fail. So what I would like to encourage is, I guess, a awareness of that a problem is not over yet, and that it's not okay to go to indoor parties in large groups. It's just a very bad idea. And doing such things will sadly make you more prone to not hold the people that actually are accountable, should be held accountable, for the many deaths that we are seeing and are going to keep seeing, because you're going to be consumed with your own guilt for doing so and for letting your kids do that. So it's time for the sane people in this country to take the morally higher ground and to take responsibility so that they can demand responsibility when time is given for that. And it will be given, because the public opinion will shift as the evidence amounts that the strategy that we're currently are having is defective. And that would be all. Thank you.